So ratios and percents. We're going to start with ratios, lesson 1 ratios. All right. And explain what a ratio is. On our bird watching expedition to Elk Island National Park in Alberta, Casey spotted 6 sapsuckers and 3 Baltimore Orioles sitting on a fence. So they're different types of birds. Here are some ways that Casey compared the birds that she saw. The number of sapsuckers compared to the number of Orioles. 6 sapsuckers to 3 Orioles. The number of sapsuckers compared to the number of birds. So 6 sapsuckers to 9 birds. Casey would have also compared the birds using fractions. What fraction of birds are sapsuckers? So before we get to that question, I want to look at what's called a ratio. Okay? And you will notice that there seems to be a word that, well, just above there, that repeated 4 times in every one of those sentences. No, that's just the object, right? Compared. Compared, compared, compared. Okay? A ratio is comparing, yes, comparing 2 or more objects. All right, that are the same. In this case, we are comparing birds, right? There's different kinds of birds, but they're all birds, all right? And so when we write a ratio, no units are needed. So we don't have to write birds behind them. We don't have to write Oreos behind it. We don't have to write sapsuckers. None of that stuff. That doesn't need to be, all right? And ratios really have 3 forms. Okay. Form 1 is ratio form. And when you see a ratio in this form, there is no other way. Well, there's other ways to write a ratio, but this form here does not represent any other way other than ratios. Okay. So if I was doing let's do this last one here, sapsuckers to total birds, right? Let's do this one that I circled there. Okay, so if I'm doing that, I'm going 6 to 9. So ratio form is actually colons, all right? This compares one thing to another, and you'll see I didn't put any units on it, okay? I could write it also in words. Right? This happens a lot in mathematics. You can do lots of things in words, but I would write 6 to 9. You could even go as far as 6 to 9. Right? Write it all out in words if you needed to. But the key thing is the 2. It's a comparison. Right? And the last one is fraction form. Yeah, fraction form, 6 over 9. Now this one I'm going to put a little star next to, okay? You only use this form if the denominator represents a total. Okay? So in this case, there was 9 birds. I can write it in fraction form. So even though there's those 3 forms for ratios, one form, which is fraction form, it isn't always appropriate to write every ratio in. If you're comparing, let's say, in this question, sapsuckers to Oreos, then I would not be able to write it in fraction form. Right? Because if I'm doing sapsuckers to Oreos, yep, Then I can use number 1, right? There are 6 sapsuckers to 3 Oreos. I can do number 2, writing 6 to 3, but I cannot write 6 over 3 because 3 does not represent a total. All right? So I want you to think about what a fraction actually means. It's something out of a total, right? And so I do not want you to use the fraction form of a ratio. If you're comparing ratios, don't use it if the bottom number does not represent a total. Okay? Sorry? We're just comparing things, and it's just the forms of them. Okay, we're going to get to an example here with, I think, bunnies and things like that. All right, can I move on? We all have everything done. Okay, so flip over. Okay, so they're going to give you a little summary here. They've got these brown rabbits to white rabbits. Okay, so a ratio is comparing two quantities with the same units, just as we stated. You can use ratios to compare the number of white rabbits to brown rabbits, right? So if I have 5 to 4, there is those ratios right there. One of them is word ratio, one of them is ratio form. You notice that fractions are not part of that ratio because 5 represents the white rabbits, 4 represents the brown rabbits, right? Or for brown rabbits. So these ones, when we are comparing one of them to another, that's called a part-to-part ratio. None of those are the full amount of rabbits, is it? There are, in this case, look at this. Order matters. So this one right here, right, is white rabbits to brown. White to brown. When I flip it around, 4 to 5, that's brown to white. Those are not the same thing. Okay, so you got to be careful about what order they write it in. Order is important in a ratio. 5 to 4 is not the same as 4 to 5. Okay? So we have part to part, and then we have part to whole. So here, I'm using the same thing, but I now have another comparison, 4 to 9. 4 represents my brown rabbits. Where did they get the 9 from? Total, right? And you can see there is ratio or word form, there's ratio form, and there is fraction form. This one has a fraction form. This one did not. This is a part to part. Part to part. This is a part to a total. So we're allowed to use the fraction in there. And then there's that whole idea, right? That if we're using a fraction, the bottom denominator has to represent a total. Now there is a three-part ratios. Okay, so let's say that I have this, 4 to 5 to 9. Or 5 to 9. Oh, I can't mix them. To 4. I can write three-part ones too. So this first one would be what? Brown to white to total. This would be white to total to brown. Can I write it like that? No. Well, what happens if I go and so that one's that one. What happens if I do this and put the total on the bottom? Yeah. No. Fraction can only be a top and a bottom, right? A numerator or denominator. So if you're going to do a three-part ratio, you either have to use the ratio or you have to use the to the 2. All right? So normally I would do the grade 6 girls to boys ratio. However, there seems to be an even amount of both of you. All right? So I'm going to, let's do the whole class. Okay? So we'll do the grade 6, 7. Sorry?
The boys have more because they're...
Well, I'm in the room at the moment. All right, so we're going to do girls 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 girls at the moment, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 boys. All right? So, part to part in words, all right? I could do 5 to 7. They're going to ask you that. So if I write 5 to 7, what am I comparing?
People, girls and boys.
Girls to boys, right? So girls to boys. Okay? They're going to ask you to give these, and then they're going to ask you, what is that? Okay? So you have to, yeah, you could use G and B. But make sure you write it once so that people know what G and B are. Morgan, give me another one that would be in ratio form, another comparison, not the same one. How about if you just flip it the opposite direction?
Yeah.
Okay. 7 and then colon. Right? I could flip it that. That means that I would be boys to girls, right? Next thing, give me the hard one. Give me a fraction one.
12 on the bottom, and you can do 5 on the top.
All right. So 5 over 12. What do you have there? What is that comparison?
Girls to the total.
Girls to the total, right? Now, this was a part-to-part ratio. Is this a part-to-part ratio? No. So where should I circle this and put this guy? I'm going to move it down to there because this is a part to whole. So am I going to have anything in this spot? No. Okay. So I'm going to move it down here, which was girls to total. All right, girls to total. And I'm going to cross this guy out. There should be none in this spot because of the fact that I can't have a part to part where the bottom is a total. Let me just move that up so you can see the whole, more of the page at a time. There we go. And part to a whole, I could have 7 to 12, which would be boys to total. I could also have ratio form. Ooh, I'm going to do 6 to 7 to 12. Oh, so that's, oh no, it's 6.
You can't do that because that's part of the whole.
5. Parts to a whole. Can I do parts to a whole? I do have parts, and then I have a whole. I just can't put it in fraction form. Okay? So I do have girls, I do have boys, I do have a total. All right? I'm good there. I just cannot write this one in fraction form because then I'd have 3 numbers in my fraction. And it can't happen. All right? All right, let's see what we got here. I think we come to the assignment. So what you're doing is you are going, so when they're talking about write each ratio in 2 ways, it's the forms, all right? I do not want to see this. It says pairs, apples to pears. One form is 4 to 3. The other form would be 4 to 3. It is not 3 to 4. Because if I write 3 to 4, what am I saying?
Then pairs to apples.
Pairs to apples. And is that what they're asking for? They're asking for apples to pears, right? So flipping it backwards and forwards is not one of the ways. When they're asking for ways, they're asking for forms. What are the different forms? Okay. Write your ratios. They've got the little colored ones there. I think it's pretty straightforward. Eventually they'll give you some ratios and you have to tell me what they represent. Okay, cats and dogs.
How many pages do we have?
I think you stop at 28.
28?
So you don't have a lot to do. It's pretty fast kind of assignment. Once you're done, just read your book or you can work on your Flextangle if you had that left. Okay? So that is a quick little one. All right?
And that's it for this year?
No, we have a second part, but we'll do that next day.